Hi everyone, I'm Jean-Baptiste Bouzige, CEO and founder of Ekimetrics. I'm really delighted to welcome you for this third edition of Ekivision. We have created Ekivision so that we can step back, think about the future of our job, our mission with clients, and even more broadly about the world and society. For 17 years, we have been driven by the desire and pleasure to crack the most complex issues thanks to data. We have creating competitive advantages thanks to AI solutions for our clients. That's our everyday job. As a purpose-driven company, our duty is really to think and to create future-proof business models. And it means that we need to think long, act fast, and change now. Today, the most strategic question for corporates and CEOs is about operating within planet boundaries. Even the old Porter's 5 forces model is outdated. The very notion of growth is called into action. Data has never been, and AI has never been, and never will be the solution. But it's a formidable tool to test, to forecast, and anticipate scenarios. And it means that we can, thanks to AI, translate theoretical transition plans into concrete operational plans that are resilient, that are creating new models. We have an opportunity to leverage our unique know-how and track record to create this kind of use cases at scale that will make a difference. It's a big change. It requires a lot of courage. It's a long journey. And it starts by thinking about it, opening our minds. And for us today, it starts with a conversation with Bill Wyman, founder of Oliver Wyman and a pioneer in the world of strategy, talking with our general manager in the US, Mirek. They will talk about how you can create a unique and differentiating path into uncertainty, into all the changes that we experience today. I hope that you will enjoy it. I wanted to thank you for attending this event, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation live at the end of this event.
On behalf of the entire Ekimetrics family, I'd like to introduce you to Bill Wyman, a co-founder of a global consulting firm, Oliver Wyman, who next year will have been exactly 40 years since of its founding. Bill Wyman, it's my pleasure to have you here with us.
Good to see you.
Thank you for coming. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions related to the very, very relevant subject of sustainability, relevance, survival in this business, competition, one of which is about how companies need to excel in order to make themselves relevant and to make themselves also profitable while also preserving and protecting our planet.
Mm-hmm. You know, 40 years in the business plus, I think there's one fundamental answer to that, and that is corporate character. You have to define not what the company is, but who the company is. We're in an environment of rapid change, even disruptive change sometimes. It's very important to have a foundation under which the company is solid and continuing and consistent, no matter what that external environment is. Character, I think, is the answer. You have to clearly define who the company is. What are its fundamental values that are practiced no matter what the context is on the outside? The fundamental beliefs. And you need to not only define them, but you need to clearly articulate them and to clearly reinforce them constantly to the employees of the company. It's really the only thing I've ever seen that can sustain a company across a rapidly changing landscape.
How about another subject which is very relevant as we see our clients and partners throughout our journey? About differentiation, how can you differentiate yourself in this crowded field based on your 40 years of experience at Oliver Wyman?
Differentiation is really important. If you don't differentiate, if you look the same as multiple other competitors, the customer ends up devolving to price as the differentiating factor. When they do that, you end up in an undesirable spiral. As you lower your price, you have fewer resources to differentiate. Undifferentiated, the price goes down, fewer resources. It's very difficult to recover from that kind of situation. So differentiation is really key. It's really important. You can differentiate in terms of expertise, industry expertise, or functional expertise. You can differentiate in values, although that's even more difficult. That's more of an execution thing. But it's really important to differentiate. Let me give you an example. And it's not a client, it's somebody that I'm a customer of. USAA is an insurance company that initially insured only active military and their families. I got involved many years ago, 60 years ago with them, and I have had superb service from them ever since. The reason is they fundamentally understand who they are, and that is they specialize only in active military. They respect the military for what they're doing. They're equipped to deal with them all over the world. When you call somebody there, they know the context, they know the answers, because that's what they do. They're specialized in that, and they do it much, much better than anybody else. That's an example of a decision to how you're going to differentiate yourself.
As you know, every firm has its mission statement, lofty ideas where to go. But I'd like to ask you, what's in the core of a firm when it comes to its purpose? Can you share some of the examples from the 40 years of experience?
A long time ago, when I was in business school, I can remember really clearly a case study that dealt with this explicitly. And I can remember standing up and arguing passionately that the only purpose of a corporation was to get a high return to the shareholders. That it had no other purpose. It should not be political, it should not be social, only that. The world has changed an awful lot since then. That is not only inadequate, but it's inappropriate for today's environment. You have to be sensitive to the social context in which you're operating. There are other function values and purposes of corporations today. So I agree with you, purpose is really important. It's something that has to be addressed and clearly and repeatedly part of the branding of the company, really important. One other aspect of purpose, and that is it needs to be addressed with urgency. It is really important that people understand that this is a primary goal of the company and that it is something that will be pursued no matter what the environment in which it's operating.
Thank you very much, Bill, for coming here and for your time and insights, and we hope to see you again. The next sequence is gathering insights from executive frontline on sustainable and forward-thinking transition in their company. This will be followed by a conversation around future-proof marketing practices with our second guest, Charlie Dodds, from the Enterprise Holdings, a leader in transportation and mobility. Stay with us.
Not only they can, but they must. At Veolia, we believe that a company can be prosperous only if it is useful. And that's why we consider our performance as multifaceted: financial, commercial, social, societal, and environmental.
I believe performance and impact can only coexist if the topic is personally endorsed by the CEO and not just delegated to a team. Now, in the luxury industry, I've seen two themes. First one, in major groups such as Cartier or De Beers, you need to change both mindsets and the organization. It's a heavy constraint and it takes much time. In startups built around impact, on the other hand, it is a very creative and joyful process that will create quick and relevant impact.
I think it's a must that they have to live together. I think the reality is when you look at how consumers' purchase behavior is changing and evolving, customers are looking for companies that have a sustainable business model, are taking their responsibilities seriously. And I think as a result, you're also seeing investors value companies and entities that have a sustainable roadmap and future and clear pathway forward at higher levels.
Also, in the now, we have achieved the AAA rating on the CDP listing for the consecutive fourth year, which recognizes our leadership in the environmental transparency on forest, climate change, water security. At the now, our mission is to bring the health through food to as many people as possible. Sustainability at the core of our mission, to inspire healthier choices and make the positive impact to the local community and the environment. We believe the combination of financials and sustainability is the way to drive the value for all.
At Rouvna, we like to build virtuous loops. First step, we stay true to our promise. Circularity is involved in every step of the business model. It becomes a mindset. For that, we use a compass and we are a purpose-driven company. 2, we let our partners own the mission and be part of the adventure. More than a market, we are building a collective. 3, we constantly adjust. We adapt to clients, we listen to our collective, yet we stay true to our promise and go back to square one.
I think ensuring a culture of entrepreneurism and curiosity, one of experimentation and testing and learning is critical so that you can keep pace with the ever-changing, rapidly evolving landscape we find ourselves in. You know, we kind of are looking at AI as one example in 3 pillars around productivity and how we operate internally, around content and how we generate and create content moving forward, and how we use it to help us drive our business results in terms of performance and optimization and understanding real insights from the data, not just focusing on aggregating the data. So I really like the idea that you have to improve a lot of things by 5%. It's very hard to move an organization in any area by 50% plus. So if you can change many things by 5%, I think you can get to a great outcome.
Firstly, it's very important to have a stronger belief on our mission. Secondly, people culture is very important. Third, we have great assets, that's our brands, which have a very meaningful and sustainable purpose to serve life. Embracing digital and data can help us to understand the needs from consumer and the patients better, so that we can come up with the relevant services and experience. I give you 2 examples. In China, we have the Mom app to support new mom breastfeeding journey. In Turkey, during lockdown, a mom saved her niece's life by using our online CPR training.
2 keywords, focus and anticipate. First, we set clear strategic priorities, what we want to accelerate, optimize, and reduce. Then we deploy the solutions that already exist and have a significant impact, for example, producing energy from waste or reusing wastewater. And of course, we innovate to anticipate the evolutions of our market, for example, by recycling electric vehicle batteries.
I think we're realists. I think we're looking to ensure we set meaningful goals that are achievable, that our entire organization can rally against, such as internal, carbon footprint and plastic targets, as well as targets with our clients for production and the carbon footprint we create in the making of our content.
Rouvna is definitely visionary. That was in the DNA of Léon Rouvna back in the 19th century, who built the very first jewelry manufacturer in the world. In his manner, he revolutionized jewelry market a few centuries ago, and today who now wants to revolutionize the eco-jewelry market.
Okay. We definitely see ourselves as a visionary leader because we put sustainability as a strategic priority rather than a separate agenda. But most importantly, I believe, driving the sustainable change is more than individual efforts. It requires cooperation and collaboration with partners, NGOs, governments. By working together with all stakeholders, I believe we are able to drive the sustainable future for all.
Our ambition is to be the leader for ecological transformation, the one who paves the way and sets the standards in decarbonization, economy and generation of resources, or depollution, as we did, for example, in the past for the treatment of hazardous waste through an adapted regulation, as we did also for the management of water and wastewater.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt Andrew. I'm one of the partners at Ekimetrics and the general manager of our London office. And for this next segment, I'm joined by Charlie Dodds, Director of Digital Marketing for Europe at Enterprise Holding Inc. So Charlie, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining.
Hi Matt, thank you for having me.
So Enterprise is a company and in an industry, in the automotive industry, that's seen really tremendous change over the last few years in both the industry trends and regulation, but also in terms of consumer behavior. Can you talk us through some of the main drivers that you're seeing?
Yeah, sure. It's an incredibly exciting industry to be in right now because of those changes. There are three big changes that we're seeing. One is the shift from internal combustion engine, ICE, to electric vehicles. The second one is around changing consumer expectations in terms of ownership models. So car sharing is fast becoming a thing, and that's starting to scale now. And the final one is a more recent phenomenon, which is mobility as a service, and what that is in a nutshell is really consumers' expectations changing in terms of the transport options and services that are available to enable them to get from A to B using, for example, multimodal transport. Predominantly driven by two big shifts. One is regulatory. So EVs, consumers don't particularly want to buy EVs or have to learn how to drive EVs, but regulations really are incentivizing customers to start looking at that, and that's where we can help. And then the other one, in terms of mobility as a service, that's really being driven by, as we said, consumer expectations and technology. I guess both are really driven by technology, but one is consumers adopting that technology versus the other one, which is government regulation driving that change.
Okay. And as you think about steering the business through that change, how do you prioritize focus so that you can make sure you're delivering the profitability and the short-term results now, but also setting yourself up to be a winning business in the long term as well?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. There really are a couple of time horizons, that we're looking at there, the long versus the short term. I think we're lucky at Enterprise in that it's a privately run company, and we're not looking at generating shareholder value. We're looking at generating a long-term going proposition for our consumers, and it really does help being family-owned and a family that's really involved in the business and still hungry to go through that change and invest. The investments are driven by a moral compass that I think that we have. That's the best way of putting it. And there are three ends to that moral compass. One is profitability. What we do has to be profitable. The second one is around taking care of the communities within which we operate. So that means, for sure, environmental, making sure that we're taking care of the environment within which we're operating in, but also in that we're offering products and services which are additive to those communities. And the final one, so we have to listen to our consumers and adapt and evolve to better support their needs. Underpinning that, there are two North Star metrics. I know there should only be one North Star, but we have two. We're quite lucky. The first North Star metric that I'd point out is TSQI. That stands for the Total Service Quality Index. That's a measure end to end of how good a job we're doing at servicing our customers. So they get to grade us on the, when they got to know us, how was the marketing, how was the websites and web platforms, right the way through to how were they treated in branch and the quality of the service and the product we're offering in terms of the cars. Are they clean or do they work? And are they what the consumer was expecting? The second one is profitability and revenue. So we want to be growing as a business, expanding geographically and expanding the services that we offer our consumers. And so that's our second measure.
Okay. And so it's great when you have those dual metrics, right? One consumer focused, one financial focused. But how, when you're implementing projects and programs and you're thinking about business performance in the short term versus business performance in the long term, how do you bridge that? What's the role of data analytics and the language that you use to describe performance across the business to make sure that you're aligned in that journey that you're taking together?
I think we're quite we're lucky again in that the data that we have is really rich, both operationally and where I'm in marketing, and we can, and it's connected. And I think that having that data connected between operations and marketing is super important, both for some of the longer term initiatives, as well as some of the more agile areas that we're looking at adapting, evolving, and continuously improving for our consumers. So a couple of examples. One is around car share or car club. That feels still quite new as a product actually, but we've been doing it for close to 20 years, car club in the UK. And in terms of the data that we're using there, we have both the operational data, which tells us how consumers are using those cars, where the cars are, how far they're being driven, where they're being driven. We can also tell, if that car is having a problem, what the problem is, and so that's really connected, both in terms of connected to the consumer as well as connected to the car manufacturers. And then on the marketing side, we understand how we got the right product. Is it the right proposition that we're putting for consumers? And as the product evolves, we can evolve our marketing along with that, and we can see if consumers are taking up that product. And so we can see their TSQI revenue. Those North Star metrics are flowing through on that long-term, capital-intensive program of changing and adapting to consumer changes in expectations and behavior. Second one, we can also be a lot more agile. Something that we're testing at the moment is something fairly simple, which is a one-way car rental to an airport preferable and a good substitute for airport parking. That one isn't capital intensive. We've got the product. It's really around repackaging that and seeing if consumers want that product or not. And that's just buying a few keywords on AdWords. And again, we can still measure that through TSQI and through profitability.
Okay, so having that kind of steer of those short-term tests, the things that you can really stand up very quickly and establish initial demand, all the way through to those same metrics steering your long-term capital-intensive infrastructure projects and changing the fundamentals of the business, like connect and create a common currency across the whole business.
Yeah, completely. I think some companies call it growth hacking. We call it always be testing because we like our 3-letter acronyms, but essentially it's that. It's changing, adapting, being agile, and growing.
Great. No, lots of reflections to take away from that specific kind of use case in enterprise. But for those business leaders in industries where the change is still to come or is only just starting, how would you support them, or what piece of advice would you give that would help them navigate that coming change and steer successfully through that?
I think choosing the right North Star metrics is hugely important. Making sure that they're understood and that they can flow right the way through the organization and empower the workforce. That works for us, along with the moral compass. I think one without the other isn't going to lead to the right outcome. Everyone, right the way down to someone who's just started out in a branch, can impact those metrics, and I think that's quite powerful for the workforce and helps us offer a really good service for our consumers.
Great. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So it's not quite the end of the show. We're nearly there, but next we've got Jean-Baptiste Bouzige, our co-founder and CEO, alongside Quentin Michard, who's one of the other co-founders and our managing director, will be summing up and concluding. Following that, we'll have a live Q&A, so do prepare your questions and make sure you stay with us.